Well, Russia and Ukraine have agreed to a ceasefire in the Black Sea following talks with the US in Saudi Arabia. But it's unclear when this truce would take effect, as the Kremlin is stressing on certain conditions to be met, which includes lifting sanctions on Russia's agricultural bank as well as other institutions. Now, such an agreement would mark the first step towards unwinding sanctions on Russia since the Ukraine war began, because the Black Sea is one theater in which Ukrainian forces have put Russia on the defensive, perhaps making Moscow keener to seek a truce there. But some experts argue that the Russian art of the deal is selling Russian demands as Russian concessions to the Americans and then demand sanctions relief on top. My colleagues Wiliam Denslow joins us now from Kyiv with the latest. Also, Dasha has more for us from Moscow.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says it is too soon to tell whether these ceasefire proposals will ultimately work, but he says it is at least a step in the right direction. He says that there could be a maritime ceasefire, essentially in principle. He also said that during the Saudi Arabia talks between Ukrainian and US delegations, they discussed a potential halt to attacks on critical infrastructure and energy sites. Zelensky says that we will now see how that could be implemented. We've also heard from Ukraine's Defence Minister Rustem Umerov. Now, he says that what is crucial now is for technical talks to resume as soon as possible to discuss things like how these agreements could be implemented, how they could be monitored. Ukraine's president is somewhat upbeat, though, in his message to reporters. He says that they are ready to move quickly towards an unconditional ceasefire and to achieve a just and lasting peace. When it comes to that, though, what we've heard from the Kremlin, who say that for this Black Sea initiative to come back into effect, for this maritime ceasefire to become operational, they say they want to see sanctions begin to be eased. That, however, is something that is absolutely contrary to what Kyiv wants. The message here in Ukraine is that they want to see their allies ratchet up the pressure on Moscow. They say that is the most effective way to dial up the sanctions in place on Moscow, to see them come to the table and for any kind of ceasefire to truly be effective. Wiliam Denslow, NDTV, Kyiv.
Moscow said Tuesday it had agreed to a Black Sea security deal if sanctions against its food and fertilizer exports are lifted. Following US-Russia talks in Saudi Arabia, the Kremlin released a statement saying the sides agreed to ensure the implementation of the Black Sea Initiative, which includes navigation safety guarantees in the Black Sea and the prevention of the use of commercial vessels for military purposes. It also agreed to allow the inspection of those vessels, but all that only after a series of conditions were met, including the lifting of restrictions and sanctions on a major agricultural bank, on food and fertilizer exporters, and on Russian vessels. The statement also says Washington will help restore Russia's access to the world market of agriculture and fertilizer exports, lower maritime insurance costs, and enhanced access to ports and payment systems for such transactions. In addition, Moscow says that Russia and the United States will work on the development of measures to halt strikes on Russian and Ukrainian energy facilities for 30 days. The statement came after many hours of discussions between Russian and American officials in Saudi Arabia. Russia's foreign ministry said on Tuesday that the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is a Russian facility and transferring control of it to Ukraine or any other country is impossible. Dasha Chernyshova, NDTV, Moscow.